Okay, now let's look at how to randomly split a data frame into two data frames. Okay. So let's start with the air quality that we talked about. Okay. So this one has 153 rows and uh, 10 columns, right? Now you want to split this into two. Okay. And the reason for that is in data analytics, you'll usually have large data sets, like hundreds of thousands or even millions of records. So you want to test how what the models that you're considering to fit to the data. You want to be able to compare the models with one another and see which one fits the data best and does prediction better. So what you want to do is you want to fit the model with the data set and then apply that model into another data set where we have what the result must be from the model. Okay, so that's called target. Target is the variable that we want to predict. So if we already know what the target is, okay, so we know the actual target, and then we use the model to predict the target, and then we can compare the prediction with the actual and see how close our prediction comes to the actual values. So you can do model 1 and do this testing. Model 2, do this testing, and then compare the different models and see which model comes close to the actual target in terms of predicting it. So for that, you have the data from the past, right? And you have the target values for all of them. So you split this data into two parts. One you call the train set. That's where the model gets trained. Okay? And then you have the test set. And once the model is trained, then you apply the model into the test set and then see how well it does. Okay? So here we want to be able to split the data into two sets at random. Okay? So you want to at random select two parts to it, right? So you have the air quality. So we want to select the rows, subset the rows from air quality, right? So let's comment that out for the moment. Okay. So we have n rows equal to n rows air quality. Okay. So let's call that num rows. Okay, so now if you run that, it should be just n row. Okay, so num rows gives us 153. Okay. All right. So now, if you do sample, right, and say sequence num rows, so that sequence num rows gives you a series of numbers, sequence of numbers 1 through 153, right? Now you want to sample from these numbers, okay? Now how many you want? The size, okay, we say we want 60%, for example. So we can say num rows times 0.6. So if you did that, then you see at the bottom you have 60% of 153 row numbers that are automatically generated. And now we want to sample these rows out and put it in the train set, right? So let's capture these as IND. Okay. So now IND has all those row numbers. So then we can say train equal to air quality, right? And then you say IND, the row numbers that we have selected or we have sampled, okay? So they will be subsetted in all the columns, of course. So that will go into train, and then everything else, okay, what is not in the IND list, so you say air quality, you say minus IND. Okay. So all IND will go into train, and everything else will go into test. So now we have split the data set into two parts. Okay. So you see, test has 62 observations, train has 91 observations for a total of 153. Okay. So this is something that we do all the time in data analytics, splitting a data frame into two parts. Okay. Sometimes we have to split three parts, okay, which we will do later on, not here in this course.